I had a high school teacher named Claire Jacobs, and my very first journalism class, I got a C. And I wanted to be the sports editor. And she said, you can't be a sports editor as a C student. It was because I only handed in half my assignments. And she said, if you get an A in the second semester, I will average it out to an A and you can become sports editor. So that was the first test of me as a journalist of whether I could make it. She gave me the job. I was editor of the Skyline Horizon, and I was on a path of journalism. We're made up of what we learn and the mentors that influence our lives. And I got very, very lucky at the University of Utah of having some of the best professors and some of the best mentors that anyone could ever have. At that point in your life, it is crucial that someone gives you the self-confidence to go forward. And I think that Utah was an embracing place, and it was also an inspiring place.
And the thing that I've always liked best about Fred Kempe is that he has always remained faithful to the person who came out of Salt Lake City with that big ambition, not to win the prize, not to get the job, but to make a difference in the world. And that's been the star that Fred has followed his whole career.
And I think he's imbued with what I would call the spirit of Utah, which is entrepreneurial, collegial, general, trying to improve the world.
I did begin from early in our friendship to ask him about growing up in Salt Lake City. I asked him about his dad's bakery business. He loved to talk about it.
My mother was about learning. My father was about integrity. If you have both education and integrity, you can't go too far wrong in life.
Fred, you've been on the ground there doing some reporting. What's the latest read you've got on the situation?
Oh, well, the latest read I have is that the U.S. officials, Panamanian officials, and Vatican officials... I felt I was like a professional basketball player, but that someone was paying me for doing my sport. And I really couldn't believe that I was going all over the world, being paid by the Wall Street Journal, Newsweek, and then the Wall Street Journal, to ask people interesting questions, then write about it. This didn't seem to me to be a job. This seemed to me to be a sport.
What makes a good journalist is somebody who just wants to look under that rock and see what's there. Who wants to peek around the corner, even if it's a little bit dangerous. A person who's a pain in the neck, asking a question that you really wish he hadn't, and Fred has always had that.
Who knows where these things come from, but I like asking questions, and I like figuring out why something is the way that it is.
You really have to be in Washington to appreciate what he's done with the Atlantic Council.
The Atlantic Council has been in existence for almost 60 years. At the end of the Cold War, it tended to lose its purpose and its direction.
I set out to try to rejuvenate the Atlantic Council. And I knew Fred Kempe from my travels in Europe, where he headed the Wall Street Journal. So I asked him if he would be interested, and he said he would be.
What appealed to me about it was coming a little bit more inside the tent, having a little bit more influence on policy actors and on outcomes.
Fred came and interviewed, and at the time we were all a little taken back because this man bounded into the room with enthusiasm, passion.
He understood Europe, he understood politics, but primarily he just exudes dynamism.
As long as you're optimistic, as long as you have dreams and goals and the desire to improve the world, you will do it.
Fred turned this from a little think tank that didn't have much of a footprint to something really big and powerful. And that's a testimony to who he is.
In the last 6 years that he has been at the helm of it, he's grown it sevenfold in terms of revenue, relevance, people.
And I am very proud at the role that it plays now, and that would not have been possible without Fred Kempe.
He has such an enthusiasm, he has such an excitement about him, he can't sit still, he's constantly moving, and he's doing, and he's making things happen, and that's what, particularly in this town, in this day and age, is unique.
After many years of being a foreign correspondent and running a newspaper abroad, I said, what have I forgotten? I said, oh gosh, I forgot to get married, and I forgot to have a child. And so pretty late in life, I found the love of my life, and pretty late in life, we had a child.
I think it just fills out his life in a way he had not anticipated.
It's a new adventure in my life that I love every bit as much and more than all the other adventures.
At the center of his life, there's the pleasure and solitude that comes from having put it together.